All right, so I wanted to start off with just doing a couple of demos on some different ways to approach for the Rings Revisited project. A couple different ways to create some different elements. One of which being like more of like grown crystal pieces, so how to model something like that, as well as how to create spiral sketches because there's no direct method for doing that. So let me hop over to Fusion and show you what I'm talking about. So the finished thing here would be now. Granted, this also kind of ends up look like broken teeth, but whatever. But just show some ideas on how you could create kind of crystalline structures. And this one I kind of tried to make it look like they were like broken and things. But more of like grown crystals, like quartz crystals, things like that. So just multifaceted. And then how you can actually use if you were trying to make something that was less direct like this, you probably want something that is less direct of a distribution. And so, how could you make a spiral? So, just a different version of this sort of thing. Obviously, you can draw your own path, whatever. But just want to show that because in Fusion, for all the stuff they've been adding, there is no just spiral line tool for whatever reason. So, we'll get to that. But let's start with I wanted to show how to make some of this stuff. So I'm just going to leave it all here on the same project, and I'm just going to add a couple more components so you can see what that is. We'll do new. Oh, hello. Work. Hey, they stuck. All right, so I'm just going to create a couple of components here so that way I have somewhere to work so you can see these and refer back to them later. Okay, great. So let me hide the existing bodies, go from there. So first I want to show like just how would you create like a grown crystal like quartz or whatever else that I can't think of. Emerald, ruby, the ones that are more of a grown and like are more of grow in like longer alignments. Well, we can approach this basically the same way we created the original gems using a polygon sketch. Remember, the goal for this project is to use the form workspace but not exclusively, just like the bulk of your modeling. Some of you might not even really use a form workspace because it doesn't really apply. But from here, I'm going to start with just a sketch and we'll go back to the old polygon sketch. Doesn't matter at this moment if it's circumscribed or inscribed, just depends on do you want it on the inside or outside of the circle that's based on. So I just went with circumscribed, whatever. And let's make it smaller, so 15 millimeters. If I want to make it more sided, remember, do not hit enter, hit tab, and it swaps over to the number of sides. We'll change that to 8 just because. And before I hit enter or I click, I want to, just for my own reference, I prefer to align my cursor with one of the major axes just so I can work from there. But it doesn't even have to be a even-sided thing because this doesn't really matter. You want make it 9 sides, whatever. Doesn't matter in this case. Okay. So that's it. That's all I need. I just need my outline. Skip finish. And I'm going to do some extrudes just to create a shape. So extrude upwards. Doesn't matter. Sure, 32. Doesn't matter. From here, now I'm going to create a couple more extrudes. Just right click to bring up the recent tools. Top, we'll do like we did before. Let's put a negative angle on it. So I don't know, negative 27. I'm just picking numbers out of nowhere, dragging upward. Kind of sort of same thing. Great. Okay. Join. Do it again from the bottom. They don't even have to match. You want to have these different angles? Cool. Negative. Yeah, I know, right? Now I'm just making a crystal pencil, which, hey, whatever. It's your stuff. You more power to you. I don't know. Let's say I don't know why I'm having difficulty picking anything. 42 again. Fine. Doesn't matter. Make it sharper. And now, in this case, I am going to leave a flat spot just because I'm still going to use some of the same tools. You don't necessarily have to. Okay, join. All right, there you go. That's going to be our basic shape, multi-sided, all of that. I'm still going to make use of the construction plane through 3 points, but instead of making it more uniform how we did before, just click and pick. Doesn't matter. Let's pick 1, 2, sure. But then let's pick a point all the way down at the bottom. All right. Hit OK. Split body. The body we want to split is the crystal. Splitting tool is that plane. Let it extend out. Great. Expand the project tree. Bodies. Hide the one I don't want. And basically start just taking chunks away. We'll do another one. Construction through 3 points, or plane through 3 points, sorry. Let's do more extreme. Extreme. I don't know why I'm going that route today. Do it again. Split body. Body to split is the jewel or crystal. Splitting tool. Chop it apart. Hide the chunk. And let me just hide these construction planes. So you can start just getting a way more weird faceted form. Now, again, that's kind of boring. Not really a lot to it. You probably want to take less extreme chunks out of the sides, but it's up to you. It's your form. Doesn't really matter. Other thing would be, okay, cool. What if I want it to look like it's like broken off or something? Okay, well, actually the split body still works really well. So let's create a sketch. Doesn't matter what side. Let's go from the right. Or actually, hell, you could even use one of the. Let's do that. You can use one of the sketch planes, or you could even use one of your planes you just created, one of the faces, as your reference point. All right, let's do that. And I'm just gonna draw like a jagged line. Let me zoom in. Doesn't matter how jagged. It's up to you. It's your design. Make big chunks. Make big lines all around. Ultimately, all it has to do is extend beyond either side of your body. That's it. Finish sketch. Okay? This is a jagged line. There we go. And it's aligned with that plane. Split body again. Body I want to split. Splitting tool is my line. That's going to align. It's going to project itself outward along the plane that it was originally created. Hit OK. And we're right back to, uh-oh, what did I not do? Probably didn't make those lines quite long enough. Fine. I'll edit the sketch and just drag these points over. Whatever. I'm just going to make that bigger. That's all. Okay. Do it again. Split body. Do that. Oh, it didn't select the whole thing. That's why. There we go. Oop, oop, oop. Careful. It did not select for some reason. Something happened there. I think I accidentally created two different lines. I see. Well, that's why we do these little troubleshoots. Yep, that's exactly what happened. So I'm just going to drag that point to match over. And let's just double check. If I double click on the whole thing, yep, now it extends all the way. Good to go. Okay. One more time. Split body, splitting tool. Yep, line extends. Great. You can extend it further. Doesn't matter. Hooray. All right. Again, hide the chunk. There we go. So now I got it kind of a broken off one. If you don't quite like how it looks like it's just, broken from one side, do it again. Create a sketch, either use one of the origin planes, or heck, let's use one of the facets. All right, there you go. Same deal. Make a jagged line from this side. You can make it however you want. It is your design. Just make it a couple little tiny chunklets. Make some bigger jagged lines. Straight out. Okay, finish sketch. And away we go again. Split body. Splitting tool is the line. Let's make sure that it actually is a one solid line again. Yep. No errors. Hide the chunk. Starting to get there. If you want this to look really jagged, you're probably going to have to do this from more than two sides, maybe two, maybe three or four sides. But again, we're just playing with this. It ends up, you could also make it less aggressive and you'll kind of get some intersections. But ultimately, that's the way to go. Just make a few different cuts, a few different slices. You end up with a bunch of hidden bodies, but we're just going to keep that as jagged crystal, if I can remember how to spell crystal. And there you go. So a couple of different ways you can use these same tools that we've been using to create just less uniform crystals or whatever. Obviously, I'd probably want to throw a couple more split bodies in there because I like what these little chunks here look like, but the others, not as much. I probably took too big of a cut on that one. But heck, you could always go back if you don't like how that quite was. All right, go back and make some minor adjustments. At that point, drag that one down that way, maybe. I don't know. Recalculate. Just making modifications to what you already had. Yes.
If you didn't want to go all the way across, could you do it like a long M so that it would dip under? Or do you have to go
You do.
completely parallel?
Okay, so the question is, what if I don't want it to cut all the way through? You don't use split body. From that, we would need a closed sketch. So, no, no, no. Glad you asked that. Good question. So if I don't want it to go all the way through, all right, let's experiment with that one. What I would need, same deal. Why did the origin hide this time? Let me hide that for a second. I can't quite get there. Okay, good. Now, same deal. Let's make like our little, some kind of little jagged thingy. Doesn't really matter. Hell, let's go in and out. Cool. Okay. So I would have so far just gone ahead and used this line to split body, but I don't want to go all the way through. So what I'm going to do instead is create a closed sketch and extrude partially through so it cuts. So for that, I need a closed sketch. Let's just do exactly that. All right. Line tool does not matter long as it creates a closed body or a closed sketch profile. There we go. Okay. So that is floating out there, kind of, sort of. Might should have made it on a construction plane. Doesn't matter. Extrude, pushes through, and it cuts. Now, I missed it a little bit here because it's kind of inside a little bit. So all that means, let's go ahead and change the direction from one side to two sides, and also make sure it extrudes all the way out that way. But now it's only partially through. Yep. And cut. Now I got some really weird chunks going. From here, if you want to keep modifying what you already have, now would be a great time to use things like chamfer for kind of trying to keep angles. Now, be warned, you're going to get some really weird and probably error results out of this, but let's try doing something like putting the chamfer down in the corner here. All right. Start dragging it out, and you can see how I'm getting more angles. Cool. Keep doing stuff like that. Or you can try using the press pull tool, which is basically an offset face. From there, we'll just like start selecting faces. I don't know, push it in, out, whatever. And you can start getting, now, of course, that is definitely going to give me an error. Wow, did not give me an error. I am genuinely surprised. I don't like the look of that because that is funky, but you can definitely play around with the push-pull tool to start changing things up even further. Oop, I don't know what's happening there. Abort, change, no, bad. Anyway, just some other tools you can that you can make use of to make some further changes. So again, this is your design, your strange tooth crystal, whatever. Okay, good question. Glad you asked that. Yep. So if you want only partials, make it an enclosed sketch and use the extrude to push through. There you go. All right. Sketch, extrude, cuts, or UTs, apparently. They're also chips. Okay. So, cool. Let's figure out how I can distribute these in a spiral. Because like I had before, I had my little crystals, but if I wanted to distribute these, a great way to do that would be using a spiral tool. Now, granted, on the inside of my ring, that would be extremely painful, so I probably wouldn't cut that away. But instead of distributing it evenly, I used a spiral as my path and made copies of that jagged crystal. Again, it kind of looks more like, teeth, but okay. That's not something I haven't seen either. Jewelry gets weird. Anyhow, how do I make use of that? Well, unfortunately, there is no spiral um, sketch tool in Fusion. So, in order to create a spiral sketch, I have to at first use the Coil spiral tool to create a body. So, if you've not used this before, Coil tool, start from select a plane like most things, choose your point, it starts. outward circumference. And traditionally, then you would be able to go, well, it's first going to tell you it's going to come out this way. And it was just saving my presets. So it's going to start like this, like you're trying to make a spring or something. But two things to create a spiral sketch. Again, this is a really silly workaround, but it's what has to be done. So within the coil tool, you have your options for changing things up. And these are also for creating like custom threads. So if you wanted to actually make like mason jar threads, that's a non-traditional thread. This is actually how you can create those threads. But we're going to ignore that for now. I want to create a flat spiral. All right, that changes it to flat spiral. Great. But I also want to change my selection to a triangle. So it's basically using the same tools as like the pipe tool. Now, the reason I did that is because I want to make use of just that inside edge that gets created. So you can play with the tools here however you want. Make your spirals bigger and smaller, whatever. Other arrow brings the start of the spiral closer to the center until it errors out. You can change the number of rotations with the slider, and then also the spacing of those. So one of the good things here again is, although this is a really painful, yeah, I was going to say a different way, way of creating a spiral, at least through parametric modeling, you can go back if you decide I don't like the size of the spiral that I end up creating, the sketch, I can go back into the spiral tool and quickly make adjustments this way. So, okay, new body, blah, 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 there we are. Okay, the reason I created this is because I just need that inside edge that gets created as two faces come to a point and create that edge. So now I'm going to go create a sketch on the same plane, and I'm going to use the project tool. So project, or just press P. Make sure your selection filter is specific entities, the little like faces and things. And I'm just going to select not the face, but just that inside edge. Just that single edge. And if you made your spiral going, the triangle go on the outside, same thing. Doesn't matter. Hit OK. Great. Now go down, hide the bodies, and now I have my spiral sketch. An incredibly stupid hat workaround that you have to make, that you have to do in order to just create a freaking spiral. But again, like I said, all right, sure. I've got my spiral. You know what? I don't like the spacing on that. You can go back, edit the spiral originally, and let's just use one of the sliders to bring it all closer. Hit OK. It recalculates everything and brings that spiral sketch back down. So at least there's some silver lining to this, that it does make it easy to readjust your spiral sketch, because as we've learned in the sketch environment, just like the form environment, it does not save progressive linear history. So you don't really have the benefit of making alterations without, otherwise you'd have to like make an entire new sketch. That's what it means. All right, cool. It's all well and good. Why bother with this? Well, I can now project this to a surface. So let's say, let me create a sphere here. And yep. Oh, I've got the body's hidden. All right. Get like a nice Akira thing going there. New body. Great. Just made that so I can move that down only because I want to get that out of the way. Let's hide my spiral. I do not need that. There we are. Okie dokie. And the reason for that, now I can use this spiral and project that spiral path onto a sphere so I can have it wrap around a curved surface. So with that, how do we project onto a surface? You have to create a new sketch. And in this case, just the same plane that you're looking down at, even though I'm making it on this sphere. Now go to create, project again, but instead project to surface. We've played with these before. We're just using this a whole slightly different way. What's the surface or the face? The sphere. Or in this modeling project would be the form ring or the ring you've already created. My curve is that spiral. Now default is going to be closest point, and you can see it makes a teeny tiny little spiral. That's because the whole thing is essentially being projected at a curvature, copying the curvature of that sphere. So instead, let me change the point to, or the option here to along vector, and it's going to ask you what that means. You see the little arrow pointing up and down? So just select a line, or in this case, the origin axis, the Z axis. So just that way it's only going straight through. So it's kind of, so this is essentially like split body. And frankly, you probably could use split body as, or split face, split body as well. This is just one of the different ways. So, okay. Thinking about it. All right, there we go. So now I have my, let me just label these. If I can spell, spiral sketch. And this one is now spiral on sphere. Cool. All right, so now I've got a roundy, so now I've got a rounded path. Why bother with any of this? If I unhide my crystal, and let me just go back and activate the whole project. Now I could take one of these crystals, or let's go ahead and make a copy. So copy paste. Let's move that copy down. Why is it hiding? Oh, because I got the bodies hidden again. Oh my,
Uh,
wrong ones. Wrong one entirely. So many. I should have made a different component. Hide all the things. There we go. And that's just the original one from that component. That's when I just moved down. All right, super. Move it down, rotate it upside down so we got our weird jaggedy things going. Probably just could have typed in 180. And I'm just moving this kind of in position to be more or less in the center. Cool. All right, there you go. That works. Just looks like a strange protrusion. All right. So from there, now I can make that path how I distribute parts. So create pattern instead of circle or grid. Use pattern on a path. My body is the weird jaggedy crystal. My path is my spiral. And you could just drag that arrow all the way down. Make as many or as few as you please. We'll do 7, I don't know, just because, or heck, I don't know, 17, whatever. So many. Now now you can see it's keeping everything arranged exactly like it is. All the way at the bottom, but just before you hit OK, switch orientation from identical to path, and now it just orients it along that path. So it evenly distributes it. Now you got weird jagged tooth crystals all around your weird sphere. But that's pretty much it on just like different ways you could approach that. Now, obviously, oh, all right, looks more like I've made a germ. You know what? Not here to judge your model. Don't judge mine. Obviously, you shrink that up, and you'll make that distribution way smaller. You know that means let me go back, edit this path or edit this pattern on path. Take your arrow and drag it back up, and you'll basically cluster all those back up at the top. It's not like you need to distribute these all the way around. Obviously, you can see that this gets really confusing when you have a lot more, and the arrow key or the arrow slider sometimes is really difficult. You can use just the distance. Ooh, that's a lot of them right in the center. Add a 0. There we go. Slightly less terrible. But there you go. So weird cluster of your now multi-faced jagged pieces. And what I did with that, aside from having just a whole morass of different copies of the same thing, that's where, let me hide all of these because, oh my, I definitely should have done this all on another component so it would have been much easier to toggle the visibility. I just jammed these all onto a ring. Hide all of this stuff. I don't know why that one's floating there. It's just one extra. Oh, one last one. And I made this earlier just as some quick examples. Threw some appearances on. And like we were talking about before, some of the appearances have some pretty neat features. This one, so I hit A, is the brass knurled. And if you go to edit that one, you can play around with the size of the knurling and the rotation of it, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, a couple different quick ways to, well, slightly less quick than ideal, but a couple different ways to distribute non-traditional gems or so if you wanted to make it more crystalline or so, and how you can go about making a spiral pattern. That could end up being like the design for your ring or something anyway, or whatever, but just wanted to show you a different way you could approach this. So hopefully that helps or gives you some different ideas. Have at it.